welcome back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you my March Mystery Madness TBR. So, I know I've gotten a lot of new subscribers recently, and so I probably should tell you that TBRs are not something that I'm very good at sticking with. This is why you don't see a ton of TBR videos on my channel. I always try to put together a TBR, and then I'm such a mood reader that I never stick to any of the books that I actually put on my TBR. You know that feeling of when you plan to do something and then all of a sudden it's planned and you don't want to do it? That's me. So I have a TBR put together. These are all books that I do want to read, and I think with the way that I've set up my TBR, it should be pretty easy for me to at least try to stick to these books that I have selected. So I have one or two selections for every category. The reason being that I have a physical book, and if I'm not able to borrow a copy of the audiobook for that physical book, I do have an audiobook selection as well. I tend to get most of my reading done through audiobooks nowadays. It just seems to be the more convenient way for me to get some bookish time in with my life right now. So yeah, let's just get into it. So the first category I'm going to tell you what books I selected for is shelf. So for this one, it was an obvious choice. I do run the first in a series, Cozy Mystery Book Club, in the Mystery Madness Goodreads group, and our selection for this month is Off Kilter. This is the first book in the Scottish Highlands mystery series by Hannah Reid. This has been sitting on my physical shelf for about 2 years. I bought it when the Save Our Cozies Readathon was going on, and so I really want to get to this one, and because it is the book club selection for the month, it's definitely one that I want to make sure that I read in the month of March. Since I am unable to get an audiobook copy of this through any of my library sources, my audiobook selection for shelf is When the Bough Breaks. This is the first book in the Alex Delaware series, I believe, from Jonathan Kellerman. This author comes very highly recommended by one of our other March Mystery Madness hosts, Joe from the Retired Book Nerd. I've had this book sitting on my shelf for a very, very long time. So long that if you've been following me on Twitter, you know that I cannot find this book. Hence, the reason why you're seeing a picture here and not the actual book. I have gotten on the wait list for an audiobook copy from my library. The wait list for this particular audiobook is very long, so I probably won't get released it until later in the month. But I am definitely looking forward to getting to it. And those are my two selections for shelf. So one off my physical shelf and one off my physical shelf, but is actually coming from the library. For the next challenge, which is borrowed, I am going to choose a book from my Kindle Unlimited subscription, and that book is the second book in the Forgotten Files mystery series by Mary Burton, and it's called The Doll Maker. I read the first book, The Shark, last year, and I really enjoyed it. This one, from what I gather, does not follow the same characters as the first book. I actually own a copy of this book also on Kindle. I was lucky enough to win one from one of the Goodreads giveaways, but I will be borrowing the audiobook copy from the Kindle Unlimited subscription. So that's where the borrowed comes in. For the challenge of new, I have selected The Seventh Victim. This is the first book in the Karen Vale mystery series by Alan Jacobson. I do also own a copy of this book on my Kindle. I think I had downloaded it for free a very, very long time ago and I never got around to it. So I'm going to make it a point to try to get to it during this readathon. I will be borrowing the audiobook from my library as well for this one. This one follows an FBI profiler. That's going to be my selection for new. I have never read any books by Alan Jacobson, so The Seventh Victim, the first in the Karen Vale mystery series, will be my selection for that challenge. For the challenge of historical, I will be reading Brooklyn on Fire. This is the second book in the Mary Hanley mystery series. The first book was called Second Street Station, and it followed Mary Hanley, who was the first female detective at the Second Street Station. I had a lot of issues with the first book. Not that Mary Hanley as a character I thought was bad, but some of the writing choices made by the author bugged me. Hopefully this book does not have those issues present, but I do need to get this one read because I did receive it from Blogging for Books in exchange for a review. So because the first book left such a bad taste in my mouth, this one has been languishing on my shelf for a while. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to get this one read. I will also be borrowing an audiobook copy of this one from my library, so that is going to be my sole selection for the historical challenge. For foreign, I chose The Ice Princess by Camilla Lackberg. This is the first book in the Patrick Hedstrom mystery series, I believe. This one is set in Sweden and is translated from Swedish. And I should have had the book here to show you today, but it's just my luck that every time I go into the library it is sitting there on the shelf, and the one time when I want to check it out, it has already been checked out by somebody else. So I put myself on the wait list for that one. I do have access to the audiobook from two of my library sources, so that will be my selection for the foreign challenge. Last but not least is the opposite challenge, and for this one I have chose to do rereads. I have never reread a book for a readathon. I think when I go into readathon, I always tend to look at new books that I haven't read before. And so there are a couple series that I want to get further into this year, so I thought, why not do the opposite of what I normally do during a readathon, and I'm going to do some rereads. I do have two selections for this one. The first one is Kingdom Keepers, Disney After Dark. Ooh, look how shiny. This one is by Ridley Pearson. This is the first in the Disney After Dark series. This is technically a children's book, so you could look at it as being opposite of everything else that I'm reading for this readathon. But I read this about 10 years ago and I never got to the next book. So I really want to get to other books in this series, and so I will be rereading this one. I unfortunately do not have access to an audiobook copy from any of my library sources, so my audiobook choice for the opposite challenge is Naked in Death. This is the first book in the In Death series by J.D. Robb. I read this one even further back than Kingdom Keepers. I think I read it like right around the time that it originally came out, which was 1995. It was probably a couple years later that I did actually read it, but yeah, that was quite a long time ago. And again with this one, I read the first book and never continued to the rest of the series. And now there are so many books in the series I'm really behind. This is one of my mom's favorite series. She's read every single one of them. And she's read the installments several times. So I really want to get into this one. I believe this one has a futuristic twist or something. I don't quite remember. Like I said, it was a really long time ago, and I do like to go into my books blindly. So I am able to obtain a copy of the audiobook on this one from one of my library sources. So this is going to be my audiobook selection for the Challenge of Opposite. So those are all of the books that I have planned to read during March Mystery Madness. I don't know if I'll be able to get to them all during the month of March, but I sure am going to try. My reading has slowed down quite a bit in the recent months, so we'll see how that goes. That's also another reason why I decided to pick several audiobooks and make sure that I had those, because if I don't have time to just sit down and with a book and read, I can still do other things while I listen to an audiobook. So that's all I have for you today. Let me know if you'll be participating in March Mystery Madness. Also be sure to join our Goodreads group, Mystery Madness, and follow us on Twitter at MarchMissMadness so you can get all of the announcements regarding Twitter sprints or Monday meetups or any of the goings on during the readathon. As of right now, I am planning on the first Monday meetup being on Monday, March 5th at noon Pacific time. This is a little different than how we did things last year, but I thought I'd try to change things up a bit and do one during the afternoon for me so that people in other time zones might be able to jump in. If you are participating in March Mystery Madness and you haven't already tagged us in your TBR post, video, or even chatted with us in our Goodreads group threads, please do so. We'd love to see what you're planning on reading during the month of March. I look forward to chatting with you all. Until next time, take care and smile always.